Welcome to the webinar, our second webinar. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening, depending where you're from. We've got 237 people registered across 40 countries. We've got an hour and a half, 1 hour and 30 minutes to get through the topic of advanced harvesting technologies for field vegetables. Quite an exciting topic. And with nearly 240 people registered, that would be a good indication of the interest in the topic. It's an annual series. This is our second, as I said. My name is Ian Layden, Director of Vegetables and Supply Chains of Research and Development based in Queensland, Australia for the Department of Primary Industries. So a big welcome to all growers, and we do have quite a few, and particularly to the Australian growers joining us this afternoon. So a quick intro really of the webinar. We'll have a brief intro of the Vegetable Mechanisation Project, and that will be led by Janina Fabrice Mourinho, my colleague. Then we'll move to a panelist, and we've got some great panelists for you today, and we'll introduce them shortly. And then there'll be a Q&A session at the end. So basically a pretty standard webinar. We'll move through the overview of the project. We'll introduce the panelists, and then there'll be time for Q&A and quite a long session for Q&A at the end, and we will come back and close it out. So I'd like to hand over to Janina Fabrice Mourinho to introduce the project and why we're here today. Thank you, Janina.
Thanks, Ian. Hello, everyone. So I'll give you an overview of the project that we are working on. So the project's Advanced Vegetable Mechanization Program to maximize labor and cost efficiency. So one of the main goals of the project is to identify and trial mechanized solutions enhancing labor and cost efficiency in the vegetables industry. So this project is funded by Hot Innovations through the Vegetables Industry Fund, who are the research and development corporation responsible for horticulture in Australia. So this project has 3 years, duration of 3 years, and it has started in June last year and will conclude in mid-2027. So we have two partners helping us delivering the project. One of them is GoFar, which is helping us to deliver this webinar today, and also helping us to identify and connect with technologies manufactured around the world. And also a second partner is Farm Concepts, led by Braden Helmuth, which will be helping us with the trial and demonstration sites component, working with the integration between the tech manufacturer and the growers. So throughout the life of the project, we have a couple of activities that we're going to deliver. So we have 2 webinars per year. One of the webinars already happened last year, in June last year, and this other that is happening today. We also have industry gap analysis being delivered, where we're going to identify opportunities for technology and crops around the country, and also deliver a technology catalog. So we also be trialing new technology in trial demonstration sites with growers, where we are already delivering 2 this year. So one is happening with Farm Droid in Tasmania, another one is happening with Roboti in Victoria. We also had happened last year, October last year, the first grower study tour, where we got 18 growers and took them to California to visit some farms where they're integrating some technology, and also attend to FIRA USA. And we have a second grower study tour planned for 26-27. So after the tour, we really would like to gather some information and feedback from the growers, understanding what they would like to see being developed in the pipeline in terms of technology. And one of the main technologies mentioned throughout this feedback was autonomous harvesters. And one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar today. So connected to that, we also asked them what type of technologies and from each companies they would like to have more information in those webinars. So we had the laser weeders, harvest technology in autonomous platforms as the most mentioned as well. So linking what we heard from our growers and connecting with the reality we have in the country. So based in studies done in previous investments, these studies identify what was the crop priorities for mechanized harvesters in the country based in the crops, the ones that have the higher labor requirements for harvest. So lettuce, pumpkin, broccoli, capsicum, zucchini, cauliflower, cabbage, and Asian vegetables were one of the ones that was that have the higher labor requirement for harvesters, and also that connects to what are the crops that are more high, they have a high production value for the country, which is compares very well with that. So in saying that, I would like to finalize my presentation and setting the scene for what's coming next. And I'll hand over to Ian to introduce the panelists. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Janina. I think we can see that even in the work here domestically in our part of the world, it agrees with exactly what's the same sentiments in other parts of the globe, but for field, vegetable, which is still requiring hand harvesting. So I liken harvesting, automated harvesting with these crops as probably the holy grail of ag tech. There's a high amount of interest, and we've got some great panelists with us today to, I guess, run through their thoughts and what they're thinking about in terms of automation of harvest, some of their experiences, and some of the things I suppose coming down the track or what's available now. So before I hand over to my colleague Julie O'Halloran to run the panel session, I just thought a quick intro of our panelists today. And it's great to have some homegrown talent in Adam BALLAN. Adam's the general manager of Fresh Select. Fresh Select are a vertically integrated farming company based in Werribee South in Victoria, and they specialise in lettuce and brassicas. Their core products are iceberg, cos lettuce, broccoli, baby brock, cauliflower, and cabbage. Look, automation is high on their agenda, and they're seeing that as a key enabler of their company strategy. So Adam is the general manager there, is a third generation farmer, and has led their farming operation for over 25 years. So welcome, Adam. Welcome to James Rome also. So James is joining us from Scotland today, where he is the crop manager with East of Scotland Growers. East of Scotland Growers are a farmer-owned cooperative based in Fife in Scotland, and their main crops are broccoli and cauliflower. And it's wonderful to have James because he has been tinkering around with automated harvesting for some of these crops for some time. So welcome, James. Moving to our tech providers now is we have Ron van der Pavet, who is the owner and CEO of BrimaPack. BrimaPack are based in the Netherlands and are a leading player for vegetable handling solutions for iceberg lettuce, broccoli, and other vegetables and fruits. And this also includes a number of field harvesting and packing solutions. So it's actually wonderful to have Ron with us today. Thank you, Ron. And finally, rounding out is our panel is Karl Thomas. Karl is the general manager of AHS. AHS is the first company to offer a commercially viable robotic broccoli harvester and are leading the industry in terms of this automation of this technology. With operations in the US and EU, they provide sales and service worldwide, and they're backed by deep technological expertise and a strong farming heritage through their parent company, which is a well-established vegetable farm in Washington. So they're certainly combining innovation with real-world ag experience. So I'm sure you'll agree that this is a great panel. I've been really looking forward to this. So I'll hand over to Julie to sort of kick off the panel session and the presentation. So thank you, Julie.
Hi everyone, and thanks Ian. We're going to start the panelist presentations with Adam BALLAN. So I'll hand over to you, Adam.
Hi all. Yeah, so we're a Australian-based business out at Melbourne and Queensland. Sorry, I'm working off my phone because I'm having some tech issues at the moment. So our main crops are cos lettuce, baby gems, and midi iceberg. We've also got a hydroponic operation. We've got broccoli, baby broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, all colours, and we also do some Brussels sprouts. So we grow currently about 300 hectares annually, and that's a combination with some grower partners and also what we have under supply. My role within the business is General Manager of Farming, and if you can just click through to that next slide for me. And look, some of the challenges that we face out here in Australia, one of the big ones is cost of labour. And, you know, one of our real focuses as a business now is to try and implement some sort of mechanisation to assist us with bringing that cost of labour down. Also, there's some great tooling stuff out there that we recognise that hopefully can assist us with some of our yield improvements and reduction of inputs, fertiliser, sprays. The big one that we're chasing is automating of harvesting and planting. We see that as something that is established enough in the market to pounce on. We probably don't see ourselves as the early adapters of some of the tech that's out there, but we really like what we see in some of the harvest products that are out there, and Karl will speak later on. We've been working closely with Karl after our recent trip to the US on a broccoli harvester, and look forward to hopefully getting that out of the ground here in Australia. We've also found some products that we really like in the planting space, and there's plant tape, which is obviously one that we really like, and there's also the agri planter, which we think really suits what we do. So we see some short-term utilisation of that equipment because it seems to be quite established in our industry, what we do here. That's about us. Yeah, one of the big ones that we have a little bit of fear on is adapting some of this tech too early. We see ourselves in wanting to see it definitely commercial and working out in the field. We do see a little bit of risk in being the early adapters. We also think with the labour component, you know, we need to get obviously a return on our investment, which is probably an easy one to satisfy if the machinery is right, because we're very labour intense. And we also want to just focus on what we think the most important thing for us is, and try and pick that low hanging fruit as quick as we can and adapt some of the tech in there. We also believe if we are able to bring some of this great tech to the industry, that we can strengthen our supply partners that work with the business, and also give them the courage to get into the space of purchasing some of this machinery. One of the concerns that we have got is what the after sales support looks like, and I suppose that's one of the reasons why we feel like adapting it too early becomes a bit of a risk. But I do think the scale up of some of the stuff that we've been looking at will scale up quite quickly, and that support will follow. And we also then need to make sure that we're able to adapt it to our farming operations that we currently have here. And, you know, we've got different properties with different constraints, and at the moment, one of the things that we do find is we don't have a one machine that fits all. So we're just working through that to try and find something that will work for us.
Thanks, Adam. I'm going to move on to James now too. As mentioned before, we're going to hold the questions until the end of all the presenters speaking. But definitely, if you have any questions, just keep them in mind or start popping them in the chat or the questions thread, and we'll come back to them when we enter the Q&A session. So, James, I'd like to hand over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm James Rowan from East of Scotland Growers, and Julie, if you could flick on to the next one, give us a very brief history of who we are and sort of what we do. So we are a grower cooperative based, as Ian said, in Fife in Scotland. We are. It was set up in the late 80s, and we are still going strong with 15 members. Quite a lot's changed over the last couple of years for us, and obviously, as Adam was saying, labour is a huge part. If you can flick through again, Julie, I'll just the cropping that we do, actually where we are, as I say, in Fife, we are covering every year cropping circa 3,000 to 3,500 hectares of crop. So we've got a land bank of about 18,000 hectares between all the growers. We are supplying direct to customer. We have 4 BRC sort of pack houses through the group, and they. We're sort of now branching into England. We've got a couple of growing partners further down south to help continue our supply chain through the season. Being where we are in Scotland, we're never going to be the earliest into the UK market. We cover a fair area. We're sort of just in Scotland. We're about 200 miles north to south. And yeah, no, that's fine, Julie. It's the cropping wise, we've expanded quite a lot in the last couple of years. Broccoli and collie are very much still our biggest by area, but fairly closely followed on by Brussels sprouts these days. And when you look through that list, I'm not going to name them all. You know, the vast majority of those are all hand harvested. We've got a few in there that like the sprouts, leeks, etc. that make life slightly easier with mechanisation, but the core of what we do and is all hand harvested. So that provides us with a fairly big challenge going forward. You can skip through if you like, Julie. It should be said that we grow everything from modules. We don't grow anything from seed, certainly with all the brassicas. Which, you know, depending on where you're in the world, that might seem odd, but it's the only way for us to get continuity and uniformity, which I think when we're talking about mechanisation is the most important thing that we can do. So all crops come up from that. We're growing over 150 million plants in propagators a year. All coming up from England. So that's quite relevant when we're talking about mechanisation, because when skip forward, Julie, when we're going through and deciding what our strategy is going to be, getting the uniformity of the crop is key, but also what comes first, the harvesting solution or the planting solution? Because to be honest, although planting is all done by hand or mostly done by hand now, the key labor user is in the harvest. So currently all our broccoli and collie all cut by hand. We cut raw material into boxes or broccoli, or we pack collie straight into the supermarket trays. And as an average through the crop, just like all producers, cost of wages going up, productivity's not necessarily going up with it. and it is 40 to 50% of our crop costing goes on labour for harvest. So it's a key driver for what we try and do next. So going, and as I say, in terms of our cropping profile, 80% of it is hand harvested. So that is what we need to cure, basically. If we go through next, Julie, so what we've done to date to try and mitigate, well, we've gone with a slightly different, we've got a number of these automatic planters in the group, but there are a number of our growers that would rather see the harvest solved before we go to the planting route, because the planting route is the easier one. The labour is not so many for the acres that they do. And for the Scottish, conditions, fields, topography, ground, etc., we found that red one in the picture there works best for us. There are faster ones out there, but for the brassicas and what we do, those red ones seem to work best. Although they're not much quicker than a team of people. So we've got Brussels sprouts, obviously one of the few crops that is harvested mechanically. So we've got 13 of those harvesters, and obviously leeks, onions, carrots, etc. are all harvested, and machinery is well established in those markets. We're obviously only talking really in the field here, but the other key part of the question is, once we've harvested a crop, how do we deal with it? So that's fine for those established crops with sprouts, etc. There's machines and pack houses, equipment that can work with that pretty easily. The next stage, and Julie, if you can move on one, the next stage is probably the most challenging. Broccoli equates for the lion's share of our, it's somewhere in the region of 30 to 40% of our land bank. I haven't actually worked it out as a percentage, but that is, for obvious reasons, our number one crop or target to solve the harvest on. We've been there with a number of manufacturers over the years. We've put quite a lot of money into one or two of them, and they're no longer in the pictures that I show you there. It has been a long road. I've been up here for 5-6 years now. We've looked at various machines in the time I've been up here, but obviously it's one of those things that's been going on for far longer than me up here. But in the most recent sort of few years, we've worked with a company called RoboVeg, and there are elements of that system that were great, but unfortunately it's not continued. It's not commercially viable in my view. It's too slow and inconsistent. But for us and what we do, the selective is there's probably going to be a space for us for both a selective and a slaughter harvester. A large proportion of what we're doing on both broccoli and cauliflower is for processing, for freezing. We are the UK's only contracted freezer, so a grower for freezing. So it's a big part, and in my view, there's space for both styles of machine in the market. Obviously, if it was easy, it would already be done. There's a red. The middle picture there is a slaughter harvester. We've been working with a pretty global brand there on that front, and that actually in many ways is moving forward in good steps. Unfortunately for me at the moment, where I think that would be most useful is for our freezing market, and it's not capable of taking the size of head, so it's been designed for the fresh market in mind. But whatever we do, as I say, it then leads to what's the next stage, because harvesting the crop's great, and finding people to work in a pack house is probably easier than finding people to work in a field in Scotland in October. It's not the most, or it's not always the most pleasant place to be. So that is the next step. And we've got, as I say, there's a machine up there that we saw in Holland last year, and that looks probably the closest to being ready that I've seen. It was very good, actually. My concerns are a little bit like Adam's earlier. Making sure that whatever investment we make is going to be sustainable. It's got backup. It works in our conditions, etc. As I say, we've worked with RoboVeg, who we were backed early on, and maybe had our fingers burnt slightly on that front. There are technologies moving on at a huge pace, but every year we think there's going to be another year. Sometime that's got to come. There's a number of things out there, and we're pretty close to it, though. I think that's me.
Okay, thanks, James. If you have any questions for James, just you can start putting them in the chat or the question thread, and we'll come back to those in the panel session. Moving on, I'd like to hand over to Ron from BrimaPack.
Yes, good morning, good evening, good night to everybody. My name is Ron van der Pavert, and I'm the owner of BrimaPack. Next slide, please. And also, again, another next slide, because the agenda will follow itself. First, who are we? We design, build, and commission, in our opinion, quite unique and innovative harvesting and packaging solutions. But I guess at the end, you all will be the judge of that. Next slide, please. Currently, we're operating on 6 continents, so that's our limit. And we have customers all over at 40 different countries. Next slide, please. We can skip. Yeah, why use BrimaPack? And I think my previous speakers had the same issues. You want to lower your harvesting and packaging costs. You want to improve your working conditions, and you need to find an answer for the shortage in the workforce. And if you can't overcome the first 3, then we can forget all about the rest. It's giving an answer and keep feeding the world. Next slide, please. We at BrimaPack, we did several things. First things we started out with was packaging of vegetables, and our main focus is on broccoli and iceberg and some other round commodities. One of the key things on broccoli is that we managed to increase the shelf life with 5 to 7 days at ambient temperature, which is quite impressive. And on iceberg lettuce, we have a 2 to 3 days additional shelf life. That's because we less get damage to the lettuce. In terms of those items, broccoli, iceberg lettuce, we use our own equipment. But if customers have different specifications from their supermarkets, we also cooperate with third-party equipment sellers, and then we integrate these packaging machines as if these were our own. Next slide, please. So what I said, for our own iceberg and broccoli, we developed a line of machines. Here you see the lineup. Ideal thing is they're very compact, the footprint of a pallet. And what we do is we can stagger them and get models up to 10 machines, which gives you a production capacity of over 12,000 heads per hour. And all these machines are designed to work indoors and outdoors. And to go to the next slide. if you want to go outdoors, the first thing you need to have a harvesting and drive unit. And the first thing what we did was we built a platform, quite unique again. It's electrically driven. It has an onboard generator. It's only an onboard generator of 75 horsepower, no AdBlue necessary. It's stage 5 in a tier 4 final. The reason why we did electrical, it's quite efficient. On a full harvester and full production, the power consumption is only between 8 and 15 kilowatts. That means that this system is also ready, for example, if you want to go to a battery-driven harvester. A battery of a Tesla can keep us up running for 3 to 4 hours. But also we have the possibility to put in a hydrogen combustion engine. Next slide, please. Next one, Julie, please. We skipped a small one, but no problem. So we have packaging equipment and we have a drive unit. And what you're going to see now is a combination of these. And this is one for iceberg lettuce. People are still handpicking the iceberg lettuce and are putting it into the in-feed system of our machines. You see, these people are, here we have the line of 7 auto wrappers. It's giving them a total production of almost 8,000 heads per hour. And a number to keep in mind, the productivity per man per hour can be over 400 heads. So this means, although it's still hand harvested, you can still save almost 50% on your labor cost. See, all the people are shielded from weather influences. There's light on board, so there's also a 2-shift production possible. Some of our growers already run a 2-shift production for since 2006. Here you see the packing station, and within 2 hours they have a trailer full of iceberg lettuce. You can go to the next slide, please, Julie. Another thing we have on board, everything is connected in our system. So our packaging machines, the drive unit, logistics, and that gives us the possibility to monitor everything online. So the grower can get on his iPhone and see the productivity, the current speed. And for us, and that's very important, all over the world we can help you on online diagnostics and the possibility for online service. Of course, things as GPS and all is also aboard. And every single head that's wrapped gets a timestamp, it gets a GPS code, some technical information. And this is also automatically uploaded into the cloud, and the grower can take it out and then import it to his farm management program. If you go to the next slide. All this data can be put in your own farm management problem. So basically you have all the tools together for also precision farming. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, then coming to our newest innovations, and one slide back, please. Oh, it doesn't matter. The newest information. Everything I told you before is on the internet, but we are quite good in developing, and that's where we put our money. So our marketing department doesn't get so much money. So the newest information is not on the internet yet. And if you look at here, this is one, it's already commissioned. It's still a hand-picked harvester for celery. If you go to the next slide, please. what we do there, people are handpicking the celery, and after that, we automatically trim it to specification, we wash it, we dry it, and we automatically pair it up in duals, and then it's being flow wrapped. Next slide, please. And now we are getting to the centerpiece of my presentation. What you see here is a drawing of a machine. It's a triple bed romaine harvester. On the drawing is the one that we are currently building, and that's designed to do three heads in a single pack, also done automatically. And if you go to the next slide, we see a video of we call it the wild pack because there's no orientation there. This machine is running in the UK. You have a slide shot of how it's done currently. People are bending over 400 times an hour. And here we automatically lift 3 beds individually. Each lifter follows the bed. We bring it up gradually so we still have the same location as it were on the field. That makes it easier for the people to pick it up. And what the people do is they check it, they take off another leaf and put it on the belt. Never mind the timestamp because this timestamp is off. This machine was commissioned just after COVID in 2021, and from there on, it did almost every season a double shift. So we see the romaine going up. This is all still done in the header, and now we are coming on the platform itself. There's a QC station. They line up the heads, check if all the heads are good. And then it slides into a flow wrap machine. So this was for demonstration purposes, and now you see them in full production. Now they are handling little gem. Now you see a little bit bigger romaine. You also see why we call it wild. It's not oriented, but the next version will be with also automatic orientation. And this harvester does 3 beds, and we harvested 5 lines, 6 lines, 7 lines, and on little gem we even did 8 lines. The QC station also has to take care of the overload. Sometimes people put the mud on the same spot. Now, and here the packing station at the rear. And then there's another guy picking up the boxes, putting it on a pallet, and then it's ready to go. It's a little bit on the control system. It's not rocket science, because if it was rocket science, we couldn't build it. But for the operator, it's quite easy to operate. We have a camera system on board just for monitoring purposes. It stores the last 24 hours so we can check everything. But the thing we are currently doing is we're also integrating a vision system. And with the vision system, we detect the stem, we detect the leaves, and with that, we optimize the cutting height. And yeah, we can go to the next slide. There's also something we do a little bit of bunching in field, and this is together with an American company. Next slide. Yeah, everybody was asked the question, what's next? Yeah, that's for us, the holy grail is automated iceberg harvesting. Wrapping, we already know how to do, but the holy grail is iceberg lettuce. But for that, we are cooperating with seed companies to get the right varieties. Varieties is also on romaine important. If you have to peel off a leaf because it's grown all around the plant, that takes time, and time takes labor cost. And basically, this concludes my presentation.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
We'll hand over to Karl, the last of our presenters tonight, before we move into the Q&A. So over to you, Karl.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening to everybody. Thank you for being here. I'll do my best to run through these slides and won't spend too much on the slides and spend more time in the Q&A and answer direct questions. So next slide, please. Basically who we are. AHS is a manufacturer of state-of-the-art robotic broccoli harvesters. We're a small company based in Bellingham, Washington, and we also have a manufacturing facility in the Netherlands. Our headquarters is located on the Pacific coast in the Pacific Northwest, halfway between Seattle, Washington, and Vancouver, British Columbia. The company launched basically its first functioning prototype in the 2017-2018 era. And since that time, we've just been developing on that original prototype into different versions. And we've settled now on an implement design that you'll see later in a video. Our mission basically to bring technology, tomorrow's technology to farmers today. That original unit 2017-2018 used AI and machine learning at that time. And the idea is to get the technology out of the lab and get into the field so farmers can take advantage of it. Our vision is to basically be the leading provider in the robotic harvesting industry. Our goal right now is to focus 100% on broccoli. The direction I think we'll move through growth will be to start working on harvesting the next vegetable. That'll be our growth area, and staying within the harvesting realm, using our robotic technology and finding different vegetables that we can harvest. And the way we do this is like a lot of good companies, but to be great, we invest in the best talent. We got phenomenal engineers, phenomenal software guys, and great vision technology folks. And we also use some outside consulting to kind of stay abreast of where things are going. We've always invested in the latest technology, and if there's something that we need that's not out there, but we need it, we'll actually spend the money to develop ourselves. And finally, we're constantly improving. That first prototype functioned, but the way the harvester looks today is significantly different because we're constantly looking to upgrade. Next slide, please. What we do. Our goal is basically within the automated harvesting. We've heard all the discussions earlier. Is this idea of labor, and that's really the challenge. And really, labor challenge comes in two areas. One, there's the labor supply, and I'll talk about it later. But in the EU, UK, and other areas, labor supply is a bigger issue than it is here in the United States. But there's a shrinking labor pool worldwide. Immigration issues continue to be more and more complex. And even here in the California market, there's an aging workforce, and the younger workforce is moving more towards technology as opposed to staying in the field. At the same time, even here, they have sufficient labor, but labor costs are rising, not only for wages, but also the housing costs and the wage piece. And then also safety and compliance. There's more and more management related around safety and taking care of your employees, which is an important thing to do. And I'm a fan of improving safety, but the goal will be to limit the number of laborers you have to minimize that cost. Next slide, please. And how we do it. Next slide. Typical systems right now, as we've talked about a lot, hand laborers. They call it stoop labor, folks bending over with a knife in their hand, cutting broccoli, and you're all fully aware of this. So I'll go to the next slide and explain sort of what we've decided to do is bring automation to this entire process. Using robotic vision technology and AI and some things I'll talk about, we're able to selectively harvest broccoli in virtually any condition. We currently have units running in the EU. We've provided demos throughout Spain, and we've also provided we're working with some folks here in California to commission some equipment. So we've successfully been able to bring full automation to the selective broccoli harvesting. Next slide, please. Our technology basically has 4 pieces. And obviously, it's more, there's a lot of pieces within this, but basically it's a vision system in the front of the harvester. You'll see that it's a camera box. The vision system is detecting the broccoli or seeing the broccoli. The next piece of our technology is to detect the broccoli and select for diameter. The algorithm is able to adjust. You could adjust the size of the diameter of the broccoli you want to hire that day, harvest that day. Also, the length of the crown from the top of the crown to the bottom of the cut, that's adjustable. And the system is also able to detect defects, so cat eye, pin rot, damage to the crown, several other factors. You can accept that broccoli or you can reject it based on the parameters that you set at the beginning of the day. Next phase is to have the robot move the end effector into place to pick the crown that the detection system has said we should pick. And the final piece, and sort of the magic sauce in all this, is what in robotics is the end effector. That's the most important piece. That's the piece that cuts the broccoli or, performs laser eye surgery. It's that end piece. So we've developed our own end effector that carefully gathers up the broccoli, cuts the broccoli, and then carefully delivers it to a conveyance system that then takes it away either to a pack station or into a bin. Next slide, please. Robotic broccoli harvesting has many benefits. I think one of the biggest, well, there's many benefits. One of the nice things about the labor piece is you're actually settling in your fixed cost for a long time. Our harvester is actually made out of stainless steel and will last a minimum of 5 to 10, maybe 15 years. So you've set your harvesting cost in today's dollars. Also, with regard to the labor efficiency, this idea of reducing the management effort to take care of a large labor pool. By reducing the number of hand cutters in the field, you're reducing the head count, you're minimizing the field logistics for service trailers, latrines, and those types of things. And then also minimizing the amount of human resource management it takes to manage all these hand crews and recruit them and bring them in and manage housing. So the whole system shrinks as you minimize the labor pool. Also, cost savings on the liability side from fewer injuries and fewer safety concerns. You're also able to, with the vision system and our algorithm, is to better control the diameter of the broccolis that you are harvesting that day. If the cut size is in the US from 4 to 6 inches, the goal is to not cut harvest any crowns that are in the 3.5 inch range. We want those 3.5 inches to grow larger to get to that 6 inch range. So with the harvester, it very accurately only harvests those crowns that you want to have harvested. And then finally, there's a sanitation piece. Each morning, the growers clean the harvester and then sanitize it. And then there's no human interaction with that broccoli crown until it's back at the packing station. So the harvester doesn't take lunch breaks, doesn't take restroom breaks and those types of things. So it stays sanitized all day long. Next slide, please. So in short, the value proposition of automation basically has 4 pieces as we see it. One, you're eliminating that direct labor cost. That's a direct cost that's easy to calculate. You're also fixing the cost of harvest at today's dollars, and over the next 10 to 15 years, that cost is going to grow, but your harvest costs will stay fixed. Huge reduction in safety issues and HR issues dealing with labor forces. And along those same lines, reduced annual training, safety trainings, and all those types of things. And then the general management overhead to manage all those folks. So by bringing that down, you shrink your labor pool, lighten your management load, and lower your labor costs. And that is a value of robotic broccoli harvesting. Next slide, please. this is just a sense of where we see kind of the growth of this business. The numbers aren't absolute. They're all obviously guesses, but we do see more growth in sales in Europe and Oceania at this time compared to the U.S. The U.S. does have a strong labor supply of field harvest folks, but more and more we're hearing from the folks in the U.K. and the EU is the biggest challenge is not the cost of labor, it's actually getting the labor. So we're excited about that. And for that reason, we have operations both the EU and in the United States. Next slide, please. And then we're going to show a quick video.
Okay. Yep. So we'll play that video.
So what we're showing here is just, we're showing hand harvest crew, and this is a shot of our harvester in the field in California. Basically, there are two operators, one driving the harvester tractor and one driving the bin tractor. This shot is to design the end effector in operation, and it's freezing, but you will see how the end effector side shifts right there and is able to pick the broccoli. This is the harvester in full operation. This is 5 lines in Europe. Our robots operate with a 1.5 second cycle time. And because we use lighting to for the vision system, we're able to operate 24 hours if needed. There's just a fly over the harvester, and I welcome any questions you have.
Okay, everybody. You can move into the questions. So if you have any, keep putting them in the chat. We have about 20 minutes for the Q&A. So we did have a couple come through already, so I can direct some of those. James, on one of the slides, the harvester slide that you had at the end, there was a green harvester, the UPP harvester. Do you have any more information about that one?
So that's a harvester that's being developed. We don't have any direct involvement with it other than we are sort of working with them on a secondary piece, to be honest. And actually the harvesting element of that machine is a side project to that company's main project of they've done a huge amount in a very short period of time. The machine I took a picture of, it was in our field last year, and I think they'd only started about 12 months prior. We'll see more this year as to how much it's developed, and they've been working over the winter. But yeah, it's UPP. They are mostly targeting a sort of secondary market, utilizing outgraded broccoli stalks for a different use. And the harvester is a side project to make that one more viable for them. It's a very different system and concept than any other machine that we've seen in the field, and it is meant to be selective. But at this stage, in the trials last year, it was only working as a slaughter harvester. But it's nice to have another one and potentially coming into the marketplace.
No, it's not.
No, Janina and I
we like the activity.
I suppose there's another question here, Karl. So is there any sort of ongoing annual fees for the software or AI updates and service and support with your harvester?
At this point, there is not. Once you purchase the unit, it's a one-time purchase, and that would be it. Obviously, any type of repairs or maintenance that need to be done, that would have to be paid for on a case-by-case basis. But at this time, we do not have an annual service fee.
Okay. There's another one that's come in, and it's probably a couple of the panelists that could respond to this one. So that is, how important is variety selection for successful harvest automation? So maybe Karl and James to start with.
Yep. I'll jump into that one. Variety is important. It's another aspect of that is when we work with growers, if you're going to use robotic broccoli harvesting and automation, you need to bring that thought process into your entire farming operations from the beginning, from the planting to the way the rows are set up, to the spacing from one plant to the next that can fit with the robot. So you really need to start your planting season with the end in mind of using a robotic broccoli harvester. With that, the harvester cannot see a broccoli crown if it's occluded with too much leaf matter. So there are varieties that stand up a little bit above the canopy and are easier for the vision system to see. So variety selection is really important, but so is this idea of thinking of your entire operation, knowing that at the end you're going to be using robotic broccoli harvesting. Precision throughout.
I would agree. Over the last few years, seed houses have been putting a lot of effort and concentration in this view, particularly in the broccoli market, of how things and what variety should look like to make automated easier. Unfortunately, not all of them suit every geographical growing region and conditions. And the variety that is our single biggest variety is probably not one that's all that conducive to automated harvest. It's a low set head, lots of leaf, makes it difficult. So working out planting arrangements, densities, we've done a huge amount with that over the last few years. The varieties, I think, will end up looking after themselves as new ones come through. We do 350 trial plots a year on various varieties, spacings, mechanization, whatever it is. But it goes to what Karl was saying, and hence why we've probably not had as many planters in the group as maybe we could have, because we want to make sure that we get the end sorted before the beginning, almost, in terms of the planting. And we haven't quite worked out what arrangement we need to be
right
for us.
Ron, did you have any comment on?
Yes, variety selection. That's one of the most important things on if you start automating the harvest. It's first of all, you want to have it really consistent, same size, same growth. But after cutting it, you also want it to shed the leaves quite easily, because if the leaves are really wrapped around the head itself and you have to peel them off, it still takes a lot of time. So it's not only the consistency, but also how it grows. And also the shape is very important. If you start automating, for example, iceberg lettuce, you need to get rid of the elbow types. And the solution there is not by raising the plant, getting it higher off the soil, because what happens then is when it grows, it will lean to the right or to the left or to the front or to the rear, but it will never grow straight up. And you want to have an iceberg straight up. So it's basically more about the shape than about the height.
Thanks. Karl, another one that's come through is what percentage of damage or I suppose loss would you expect from the AHS broccoli harvester?
If we have good visibility, meaning the plants are not occluded, and we are in the right size range, we have a can of a certain size, and you're cutting within that size, the damage should be extremely low, in the less than 1%. The vision system will hit the center of the broccoli crown, it'll cut it perfectly, and it'll deliver it to the belt. And at the end of that video, that is what that machine is doing, and it does that all day long. So as long as you're in the right parameters, field set up correctly, damage should be extremely low, in line with hand cutting.
Just another question for you, Karl. What are the key challenges you face in automating vegetable harvesting?
Yeah, it's the two that I just brought up. First thing is precision planting, precision field maintenance, making sure that everything's in line and that there's enough space between the plants for the robot to actually do its work. Because probably the biggest challenge. And then with that, if they're too tight together, this idea of occlusion where the leaves are over the crowns, and if there's a leaf over the top of the crown, the camera can't see it. And if the camera can't see it, the harvester will not select that crown.
Okay, thank you. Adam, a question for you. I suppose a lot of these technology manufacturers, they're sort of international. Quite in Australia is a bit more remote, I suppose, than other areas of the world. So what benefits do you see in connecting Australian growers directly with some of these harvesting manufacturers? You did mention before that you've already sort of been working with AHS.
Yeah, look, no question. That's sort of one of our fears, is getting the support that we need back here. But we feel if the company's got the scalability worldwide, then we'll be able to get that support back in Australia. And, you know, I think James said it earlier, labour is such a major component of getting vegetables in a box into a supermarket that we've got to go down that path too. And I think, you know, products like Karl's, who I've been quite close to and have seen up close and personal, if we get that right, that really will assist us in dropping that labour cost on that product. And even with some of the stuff that we did see on Karl's machinery, they're products that I would believe a worldwide product, because we've got them here in Australia. So if sensors go or there's a problem with rams, they're products that they do stock in Australia for a number of other machines. So we might have to become our own technicians maybe, but hopefully not.
Another question for you, Karl. In addition to the tractor drivers, how many people are needed in the field to operate the selective broccoli harvester?
Well, you saw in that video, we had the tractor pulling the implement. There's one driver for that. And then typically the direction that I would recommend is go to bin fill and shed pack. And in that scenario, there's simply a tractor driver pulling the bin trailer. So there are only 2 people in the field, and then obviously supply people pulling the trailers back and forth to the shed. But operational in the field, there should only be 2 people.
Another question, for those who have experience with the automated harvesting, is having to change density to suit that mechanized harvesting technology. Is that having any positive or negative effect on yield that anybody's seen so far? So
I would say from our experience, we're quite a high density planting regime, generally speaking, certainly next to the rest of the UK. And I'm actively trying to reduce our density for various reasons anyway, because I'm not, but I think it's not a straightforward answer, because with a high density over here, we can get disease. We lose a percentage to disease and mechanical damage anyway, whether it's a tractor or a foot or a steerage hoe, whatever it might be. So it's not, I don't see a direct link, to be honest. And whatever system I think that we need to go down with automation, there's going to be a compromise somewhere. There has to be a compromise. Whether it is the density, whether it is a slightly lower yield, but you're getting a more efficient harvest, they're going to outweigh each other. Yield is always king. Yield will always win in terms of value per acre or hectare, but there'll have to be a slight compromise somewhere.
You mentioned uniformity before as being one of the key factors, I suppose, for it to be successful, and use of seedlings to try to address that. Are you doing other practices that are trying to sort of, I suppose, improve uniformity on a spatial scale? Yeah, so
over the few years, we've introduced quite a few different things to what was the typical sort of growing regime to improve that. So most of our growers are now using a particular starter fertilizer that we've seen that goes down and through our planter, can be directly onto the module roots. It gets a tiny little shot of 2.5 mil per plant of a starter foot. But the difference in uniformity, harvest, all that at the end has made a big difference. Because the uniformity, and I see someone put in a question earlier asking whether we tried the plant tape regime for planting. We have for brassicas. It doesn't work for us in Scotland. Plants are far more susceptible to pest damage. Pigeons are probably the biggest culprit, but also they require more water. So you have to irrigate them in because they've got a much smaller root system when they go in. So for us, that doesn't work. It does work on many other crops, but for us, brassicas, it doesn't. And we stopped using them for leeks. That was more just due to cost more than anything else. But for brassica, but whereas going with the modules does work quite consistently, and its varieties, spacing, it's the holy grail is just getting them everything to align, because as I said, we are freezing as well. The idea of both a selective harvester going through for your first cut and a slaughter harvester going through for the second cut, that would be great for us. And so, but we need both machines. And to be fair, I've seen Karl's. It's very, very good. My biggest, I was in Europe looking at it a couple of times last year. Our biggest concern is probably more towards Adam's is having the first machine is great if it works, but we're fitting it to our regime, our topography, our conditions, knowing that we've got a backup machine or backup to that machine if there's an issue, which is another reason why I don't like the plant tape for brassica production for us, because if that machine breaks, we can't get those plants in the ground. Whereas with the automated module planter, if that breaks, we can get one out the nettles, an old manual one, and get on it ourselves to plant. So it's quite a key part of it. And all these machines and companies are pretty young. So getting the backup will be key.
Thanks, James.
Can I maybe just follow up on that? I agree with a lot of that. And I will say the magic sauce in the harvester is really the software and the complexity of the AI and machine learning, and that's set up and that's in a compute node and taken care of. The balance of many robotic harvesters, including ours, are some standard robotic parts. So I don't want people to be fearful of jumping into this. When we sell the harvester, we sell sort of a repair kit, and if there's most problems can be taken care of with a phone call, and the next level may be replace this part. And if someone backs into it with a tractor, well, that's a different issue. We would have to show up and fix that. But many of these robotic machines have replaceable parts, and sometimes are almost easier to fix than complicated tractors with hydraulic systems and those types of things. So I don't want people to be fearful of jumping into automation. I think there's local technology experts that can help repair most of what could go wrong with a robot.
Thanks, Karl. In Australia, broccoli is paid per kilo. In the markets where growers may be paid per piece, is there potential for automated harvesters to be more successful?
So that question's for me, Julie. Yeah, I think what we'll see happen is if we can successfully cut broccoli with an automated harvester, then potentially the way we currently see it in shelf may even look a little bit different. You know, at the moment we have a perfect crown, perfect size, a little bit no leaf on it. But potentially, I mean, if we could lower the store price on shelf, and it's going to have a couple leaves, there might be an opportunity to change that spec, but be able to lower the cost base for the customer. So that's one of the things I think, you know, it's going to take time to evolve. And it is, like James and Karl, it's a full holistic approach. You know, we've got to be able to get the right densities. We've got to be able to get the harvest unit in. And then we've got to be able to see what that product looks like on the back end. And if that changes a little bit, then, you know, potentially we've got to also re-educate the consumer that, yes, there's been a change, but we can drop the price a little bit. And hopefully that works for them as well with the cost of living, you know, pressure that lives around us all.
Right.
Just having a look at what else we've got coming through the chat. James, there was an earlier question that the automated harvesting doesn't decrease the time to harvest, but have you guys done any sort of, I suppose, numbers on decreasing labor costs and improving IRR with compared to hand harvesting?
So to be honest, I think that might have been more related to the planting. Like the planting doesn't take much. With the machine that we've gone with, it doesn't take any less time with being an automatic. There are planters out there like the agri planter that are quicker, but in terms of relating it to your harvest question, we've done labor analysis and pack out analysis based on the machines that we've had in the field, working sort of semi-commercially, whether it's the slaughter harvester, which it was so good in so many ways, but just wasn't able to. It still required. It didn't actually take that many people out of the field. So a general squad for us would be 7 people harvesting plus a tractorman. That if we're just harvesting broccoli into boxes. On the slaughter harvester, we had 2 tractormen because we had the trailer with the bones running alongside and the one pulling the implement, and then we had 3 to 4 people on the harvester itself, trying to tidy up, take any leaves off, etc. So it didn't actually reduce our labor requirement significantly, and therefore, and the ultimate pack out of the boxes was lower because there were still leaves, still small heads, still etc. going through. So yeah, on that front we did, and it's certainly not, that wasn't the right way for a fresh cut, to be honest. Currently, I do think that machine would do a processing harvest because they move the head to crown the broccoli, and so it can be floretted straight away, and then you're taking away all the leaf and everything out of it already. Unfortunately, it needs a bit of a redesign to take the size of head that we're looking for a processing crop. So hopefully that's been done. I think they've taken it to America to be redesigned, and hopefully it will come back to us after that. But yeah, on that example, but on a selective one, we haven't had one in field running commercially enough to be able to do a cost analysis on labor.
Okay. Thanks, James. Ron, regarding the BrimaPack unit, when we were over in the US, we did actually see that celery unit working in the field. I suppose, do you have any feedback on what those units are delivering for the customers, like delivering for those end users of the units?
Yeah, we started out there in October, and with all new technology, it's a learning curve. It's still a hand-picked harvester. The people have to cut the celery differently. And what we see now is we came from 8 boxes per man per hour. That's the conventional way. And we are gradually already moving in the direction of 13 boxes. And the goal is 15 boxes per man per hour. So we see already the improvement. But we also see it's really steady. Every day the same production and gradually improving. And yeah, the nice thing about it, we can all see it in the numbers. It's not guessing. Everything is also on that installation is logged. And what we also see is that the yield is going up because of that we less damage the celery compared to the conventional way of harvesting.
Thanks, Ron. Karl, a question for you. Do you see potential to adapt that broccoli harvester to other vegetable crops?
Most definitely. And we're part of an entrepreneurial organization, and my job is to stop that thinking and focus on broccoli right now. But yeah, we like our carrier, our vision system. The algorithm works. We have trained it to other vegetables, and we know it will work. The next piece will get an end effector that can harvest that particular crop. There are a couple that are on the board, but we're really focused on the broccoli side right now. We want to get that perfected over the next 1 to 2 years, and then we will move into some other vegetables that are pretty similar. We'll use some of the similar. It'll be able to leverage the existing technologies we have with simply a better end effector for that particular vegetable. So yes.
Excellent. Just to wrap up, I'd like to perhaps put this question to all the panelists. Like, we've obviously got growers on the webinar today that are eagerly anticipating a mechanised harvesting solution. And I suppose, what would be your advice to them at the moment, currently? Maybe Karl, start with you.
Well, the only thing I would say, just one, don't be fearful of technology. It's pretty straightforward, and you can get people to help you with it. And if there are resources to maintain it, the equipment, so I wouldn't be concerned about that. And the second one is this idea of thinking about precision farming and not just precision harvesting. We need to start from the beginning so that the harvester can be successful at the end. That would be the biggest thing.
Yeah. Ron?
Yeah, maybe strange coming out of my mouth, but I want to advise the growers, think really twice before you start something like this. Talk with other growers who use the equipment already, who have experience with the equipment, and even with the company. Be ready for a learning curve, because it's not simply putting in an automated harvester. It starts at the beginning, and we talked about it today, the seed, the soil, the plant bed, everything. And I heard it also a few times today, be careful where you spend your money. I know there are a lot of startups in the world. Some get 20 million and they start for you, but put your money at companies where you can get a track record, because these companies have something to lose.
James?
I agree with both what Ron and Karl have said. I would only add that patience, because it isn't. There's no quick fix to it all. So patience and embrace what's coming, because Karl's I've seen and there are others out there. They're making good strides. So it will come. So patience is probably it.
Excellent. And Adam?
Yeah, look, I agree with everybody, what they've said. For me, I feel like it's a super exciting space, and we're going to learn to do things a little bit differently. I think I mentioned earlier the holistic approach. I think that's the most important part. I don't think there's anything that's just going to adapt exactly the current practices that we've got. We've got to bend and groove a little bit, which, to James's point, is just going to take a little bit of time to get that right. But it is very exciting to see some of this tech coming through, and I think AI has sort of been a game changer in being able to get that recognition and making it more precision. So we need it.
We have it.
We do.
Okay, I'd like to just thank everyone for their questions through the chat, and thank you to Adam and James and Ron and Karl, as well as all the guests who joined the webinar. If there are any questions that we haven't got to, apologies for that, but we're just really trying to stick to time. We can still address those through the chat, but also if they were a question that you specifically wanted to ask one of the panelists, then please don't hesitate to use the connect function in the platform, because you can always connect directly with those speakers and ask the question directly to them and follow up with them. And I'll hand back over to Ian to wrap up the webinar.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie, and thank you to all the panel members. And we certainly heard some wonderful advice through deep experience in attempting and executing, indeed, automation in the harvest space for fresh veg. So we made a point of emphasising in this webinar that there are multiple solutions out there. And we heard that from Ron and we heard that from Karl. They're obviously all achieving the same outcome at the end of the day, going about that in slightly different ways, and that reflects obviously where growers are at as well, just not a technology thing. So. And finally, this, as I said, is a part of a webinar series. We will bring another webinar under the Vegetable Mechanisation Project later in 2025. We haven't determined that topic just yet, and we'll work with our industry and grower partners to shape up another exciting webinar. So thank you, everyone, again. Definitely keep the chat going. There's a function within the platform here to do that. There's emails in front of you on the screen also if you'd like to use that way. So again, thanks to the webinar team and of Department of Primary Industries and Go Far. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Have a very good day. And we are at Go Far very, very happy to support the VegMech program and to set up this second webinar. You will receive shortly a feedback email where you have survey, 3 minutes to fill in this survey, please. It's very important for us for the rest of the program. So thanks a lot. Have a good night, good day, good evening, wherever you are, and have a very nice time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.